A few weeks ago, I went over the worst level in every mainline Mario game, so today I want to do something a little more positive and go over the best from each game, starting with the original Super Mario Bros. So for this game, I'm going to be going with World 4-3. It isn't doing anything wild, and if I'm being honest, that's sort of the point of picking it. It's a stretch of tall mushroom platforms connected by lifts that go down like a scale the second you put weight on them, and by the back half, you're just jumping from mushroom to mushroom across those things. It's basically the whole level, but it's a nice challenge, I guess. There's also one specific jump on this level, somewhere around the very beginning, that I just could not land as a kid. Like, I cannot make this jump. I don't remember exactly which one anymore, just like the general area, but I remember just getting mad about it. But then once I got it, I actually really started to enjoy this level. Also, comment if you remember exactly which one it was. Anyway, Super Mario Bros. Doesn't really test many ideas outside the basic ones here, so I don't think there's any level that really just stands out as a clear favorite or anything, especially since a lot of them start to blend together. Also, I do want to give a quick shout out to level 1-1. Not because it's my favorite to play, but I gotta give it a shout out just for how iconic it is. For the lost levels, I don't remember enough individual lost level stages to make this pick with any real confidence, so I guess 3-4 is winning by something closer to elimination than just pure passion for this level. But the more I think about it, the more I think it's probably the right pick anyway. It's the castle capping off World 3, and it's a maze. Like, a few of the later castles in the game are wrong route, and you're just repeating the same stretch of corridor over and over again. And I said in the previous video, I don't like levels where you cannot predict where you're going, but this one actually has physical obstacles in the route. Lava pits you actually have to navigate around, piranha plant pipes. Then later there's a set of hidden blocks, and what they actually do is give you the platform you need to physically reach the correct upper path, so no easier route hidden in there. And of course it's the lost levels, so none of it is friendly. There's no checkpoints or anything, but I felt like it was just a good challenge here. It still ends with a fake Bowser and a lava bubble that jumps up from below him mid-fight. But being honest, I don't love this level because I really don't love any levels in this game that I can remember, but that's just my pick here. Super Mario Bros. 2 spends most of its runtime being a game about yanking vegetables out of the ground and throwing them at things. So it's a little funny that its best level, in my opinion, is the one where it briefly turns into 3 completely different games back to back. So coincidentally, there's going to be another 4-3 pick here. You run into a pink Birdo early on, not the boss, just a normal enemy standing there for some reason, and instead of walking past it like everything else in this world, you're supposed to hop on to one of the exit drops and ride the things across an ocean that Mario has no other way of crossing. Once you're across, the level flips entirely into a vertical ice climb through towers of flurries, which is its own thing again, and it ends with Fry Guy, who splits into 4 smaller fireballs partway through the fight. Also, if you play as Luigi or Peach here, you could jump the gap between the 2 towers and skip most of the section entirely, just going straight to Fry Guy's lair. None of the 3 ideas in this level get enough time to wear out their welcome, and I don't know, I just thought this was a really enjoyable level. Now, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to subscribe to help me reach 15,000 subscribers, and also check out this video where I go over the worst Mario levels after this. Now, on to Super Mario Bros. 3, my pick is 4-6. There's no deep personal memories attached here, but I just think it's one of the smartest ideas that Super Mario Bros. 3 ever had. Giant Land already has giant enemies and scenery all over the place, but most of the levels around it are really just normal levels wearing a bigger coat. There's 2 magic doors in the level that flip the whole stage between giant and normal size. The Koopas change, some of the blocks change. One of the blocks gives you a 1-up on the giant side and a star on the small side. Another swaps between a power-up and a single coin depending on which version of the level you're standing in. There's hidden items that only exist in one version and just aren't there at all in the other, so if you only ever play it one way, you're missing out on content that exists in the other. I just think this was an awesome idea, and we clearly saw inspiration from this in Super Mario 64. Super Mario Land only has 12 levels total, spread across 4 kingdoms with 3 stages each, and most of them are short enough to blur together by the time the credits roll. You finish a kingdom's boss stage, the scenery changes completely, and 3 levels later, you're already leaving again. So I'm not the biggest fan of this game, and I've probably played it the least out of all the different Mario games, but I'd say World 4-1 is probably my favorite here. It's the 10th level in the game and the first stage of the Chai Kingdom. Set in bamboo forest that I guess looks good for a Game Boy game. There's a pipe near the beginning that leads into a small bonus maze that opens into a room full of coins, and then another pipe much farther into the level that leads to an identical room. There's your standard power-ups hidden throughout here too. Several stretches of lifts carry Mario over pits, and they don't all move the same way. Some travel normally, some move diagonally. This level actually has some pretty decent platforming for what's not that great of a platformer in my opinion. I also think this is where the P appears for the first time, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's these bouncing zombie enemies that refuse to stay down. They kind of remind me of Dry Bones, so I guess that's something interesting here. So you stack that all into one stage, and World 4-1 ends up being one of the closest things Super Mario Land has to a real final world platforming test. There's still World 4-2 after it, and then World 4-3 hands Mario the sky pop and turns the entire thing into a shooter with unlimited missiles. But I actually enjoy this level. Like, I think this is one of the weakest Mario platformers, but this level was a good time. I actually played Super Mario World for the first time through the GBA port on my DS, and to this day, it is one of my favorite 2D platformers of all time. Probably my favorite 2D platform of all time. Picking a single best level out of it was legitimately difficult because there's only a couple of levels in this entire game I'd I'd say I actually dislike. But for my favorite, Donut Plains 1 got a lot of consideration, mostly because it's the level that gives you the Cape Feather, and everything after it plays differently because of that. But that felt more historically important than actually being the best level to play. The appropriately named Awesome is the one I'm going to go with here. It's the 4th stage in the Special Zone and built for players who made it through Star World and want something harder. And it's difficult without feeling unfair. It's all ice, Koopas kicking their shells at you across frictionless platforms, Cheep leaping out of gaps at bad angles, Bonsai Bills flying across the back half while you're trying to land precise jumps on ground that's just going to move you. Some of the Special Zone levels are hard in ways that just kind of feel unfair or just feel like they just drag, but I just really love this one. Super Mario Land 2 goes to a lot of weird places, and climbing through the toy block filled hat of a giant mechanical Mario statue is exactly the kind of thing I mean. This game is kind of like the same thing Super Mario Land for me, where I didn't grow up with this game, it's not one of my favorites, but I will say it's a lot better than its predecessor. But Block Course here is the last stage of Mario Zone, and it's built out of what the game calls N and B blocks, stacked in weird, uneven arrangements. They climb those bullet bills, Goombas, and moving spiked hazards at you the entire way up, and it ends with the 3 little pigs who don't attack in sync. One just rolls back and forth along the floor, one starts pouncing around the room and jumps a little farther every time you hit it, and the last one jumps even higher than that, getting more dangerous with every hit you land. It's probably the weirdest thing in the whole game, and one part of it I could still describe to you from memory alone. Super Mario 64, specifically DS, was the first game I ever played, or at least the first real game I ever played, I'm pretty sure. So picking one favorite level out of it took a really long time, because pretty much everything in this game stood out to me. There's a whole hidden downtown behind the main wet dry world map that I still think about way too much. I always just loved the concept of this, of how you got to it, how it always just felt so weird that no one was in this town and it just existed in this weird place. There's a slide hidden in Cool Mountain, which is another one of the many hidden secrets in this game. And Tick-Tock Clock also just has a bunch of super fun stars. Lethal Lava Land came close too, mostly just because of the volcano, but Inside the Ancient Pyramid is the one I'm going to go with here. It's the 3rd mission inside Shifting Sandland, and it's this hidden area tucked into a much bigger open desert map, and you go into the whole thing just becoming one long vertical obstacle course straight to the top, moving stone enemies, narrow ledges, the whole climb. It's just super fun. And then there's of course the boss fight here, which is awesome. Even beyond just this level itself, actually getting to the level also adds to that, since I guess it's technically part of the same level, and I remember discovering it for the first time, and there's just nothing that can recreate that feeling. Super Mario Sunshine feels unfinished in a lot of places to me, and I'm not going to pretend that's wrong. For example, something like Corona Mountain has a lava boat ride steered entirely with FLUDD, and I remember that being miserable. Pin & Park's roller coaster has its own issues too, and it just feels like this game needed a little more work before the game came out, but I still really do love this game. And picking a favorite here, I'm going with Mana Storm. You show up to Serena Beach for the first time, and the hotel is just gone, buried under a lake of electric goop, and the manager is standing next to the hole where it used to be mid-explanation when the thing that actually did it slides back up onto the beach behind him like it forgot something. That's Phantom Manta, a silhouette shaped like a manta ray. Like Bowser Jr. traced a stingray onto a bedsheet and just called it a day. You spray it with FLUDD expecting it to take damage like every other boss in the series, but instead it splits into 2 smaller copies of itself. You spray those, they split again, and keep going until you've stopped fighting one boss and started running around a beach covered in goop trails, trying to hose down a swarm of tiny electrified mantas that are still somehow all the same fight. It's a strange way to open a world, but it's a really neat concept. New Super Mario Bros. DS was one of my early childhood favorites, and 8-6 is the level from it that actually gave me a real fight. It's a volcano stage built entirely around rising lava, and of course wraps back on itself enough times that the mountain ends up feeling a lot taller than a DS screen has any business making it feel. Once you get to the top, the level launches Mario straight out of the volcano onto the flagpole outside. Now I love the rest of the game, but it is a pretty easy game. Another one of my favorites I want to give a mention to is that one level where you go through the whole pipe maze. I don't know why I always loved that level, but I did. And also shout out to the final level too. Super Mario Galaxy is my favorite game of all time, but I actually didn't have to think too much about what my pick was going to be here. It's the fate of the universe, and it is the final level of the game. It opens with gravity spotlights deciding what surfaces you're even allowed to stand on before you've had a second to get your bearings. Then you move through a bunch of planets that just keep changing things. Like, this level pretty much teaches you everything you learned in the game and has so many different areas and mechanics you used. Then it ends with this Bowser fight with this super dramatic music, and takes place across these different planetoid things. And it's a fair fight too. Now, it's not that difficult, but as a kid it gave me a little bit of trouble. And then the sequence right after, once you've actually gotten the star, is the best ending by far in any mainline Mario game. Probably in any Mario game ever, except maybe Super Paper Mario. And I don't know how much you want to consider that part of this level, but even just the gameplay itself is amazing in this level. So New Super Mario Bros. Wii came out when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I got it on launch day and played through the whole thing with my brother that same day. Now, I remember so many levels from this game, like they're just ingrained in my memory. I just instinctively know where all the secrets are, but having to pick one that stands out the most to me, it's World 8 Bowser's Castle. It's just got so many completely distinct sections packed into one stage that it almost feels like 3 or 4 smaller levels stitched together. There's that room where the platforms and lava sink beneath with you, followed by a fake Peach rescue that turns out to be a trap set by Kamek, and then the real finale where Kamek makes Bowser gigantic and the whole thing just turns into this. That last stretch is something that just shocked me at the time and is something I still look forward to every time I replay this game. You just have giant Bowser shooting fireballs at you as you use the propeller mushroom to just dodge the hit and just avoid the lava. Like, this is my favorite final level in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. Now, Super Mario Galaxy 2 is probably my second favorite game of all time. I don't know if you could tell, but I really love the Super Mario Galaxy series. And I actually think that this game might have more memorable galaxies. So you would think this would be a tough pick. And if you ask me for the main game, it definitely would be. But I had to go with Grandmaster Galaxy here. So for this, you need all 240 power stars just to unlock it. Then once you clear the base version and grab its comet medal, and you've stockpiled 9,999 star bits, the Daredevil comet shows up and the perfect run unlocks. So yeah, I'm not just talking about the Grandmaster Galaxy, I'm talking about the perfect run. It's mostly the same course, but your margin for error is completely gone. One hit and you're dead. There's no checkpoints anywhere in the whole thing. You go straight back to the start every single time you even get hit. Watching the same segments reset because you hit an electric current on segment 5 for what feels like the 10th attempt in a row, it's brutal. There's no getting around it. Like, I've wanted to throw my control at this level more times than probably any other one on this list. Even more than any worst level pick I've ever made in a different video. But there's nothing actually unfair about it. Every death comes down to some input I fumbled or some jump I misjudged. The game never does anything cheap to catch me off guard. And there's no better feeling in this whole series than the exact moment you finally clear it. Because not only is the level itself super hard with so many different parts, so many different mechanics being tested, but actually getting here is already enough of a challenge. Also, a shout out for Galaxy 2 is Throwback Galaxy. It's just a Galaxy recreation of Whomp's Fortress from Mario 64. And of course, as a big Mario 64 fan, I love this. So I do like Super Mario 3D Land, but I just don't find a lot of it memorable. And if I'm being completely honest, I find even less of it to be actually challenging. Like, the whole game is built to be approachable, and it pretty much succeeds at that. Like, yeah, it's a fun game, but I'd like a little more of a challenge or a little more creativity out of this game. However, Special 8 Crown is one exception here. It's the 96th and final course, and it removes checkpoints and power-ups while stacking Hammer Bros and Fire Bars and big cosmic clones back to back, with both Boom Boom and Pom Pom standing between you and the end. Near the finish, there's a row of flip panels that spell out "Thank you" right before the last gold pull. It's a strange touch for this level specifically, but this is the one that stands out to me the most in this game. Now on to New Super Mario Bros. 2, and I don't love this game. Honestly, I haven't played this game in so many years now, because I don't really see much reason to go back to it. If I want to go back to a New Super Mario Bros. Game, I'll play DS or Wii, or even New Super Mario Bros. U besides this, because I don't really care for the coin mechanic, and this game really doesn't do anything that interesting to me. However, I do like World Star 1. It's a nighttime remix of the World 1 background filled with brick blocks and switches. Like, you know, nothing too crazy in Mario, but hitting those switches rotates entire formations of blocks around fixed points in the level, and it closes off pads that were open a second ago. Then others that weren't open up. Again, it's not a complicated idea, but it's just a level doing something interesting here, which for this game is saying a lot. And for the final New Super Mario Bros. Game in this video, U is a good game, but again, it's just very basic for most of its runtime, and I say that as someone who genuinely likes it. The new series as a whole had just basically been reusing the same handful of backgrounds since the DS game came out. You have your grass world, your desert world, your ice world, water world, just repeat with slightly different enemy placements and call it a new entry. And New Super Mario Bros. U mostly plays into that formula too, and that's honestly why I like Pain and Swampland so much. The gameplay itself isn't anything special. It's like a ghost stage tucked into a soda jungle. There's a stretch of poison swamp, nothing you haven't already done a handful of times by this point in the game, but the whole level is styled after Van Gogh's The Starry Night. The pipes and enemies rendered like they're actually part of a moving painting, swirling brushstroke clouds and all, and the actual gameplay here isn't anything too crazy, but I just wish there were more levels like this in the New Super Mario Bros. Series, because even though the actual layout of the level is pretty standard, it's just so memorable and fun to play because you get to see that different background, and we finally got some variety here. Especially after so many years of just getting the same things over and over again, this was a really nice change of pace. Now for Super Mario 3D World, I'm going with Mount Mustache. It's styled after the Mario circuit tracks from the original Super Mario Kart, right down to the checkered borders and everything, and dash panels keep accelerating you forward while you're flying through slopes, springs, and alternate routes without much time to stop and line anything up. There's a mystery box partway through where you end up chasing a rabbit across a stretch of dash panels for one of the green stars. And again, similar to New Super Mario Bros. U, it's not that this level is necessarily the most interesting gameplay-wise, even though I think this is interesting, it's that the idea for it is just so cool that it makes it more fun to play. I also gotta bring up Champions Road 2, because it's basically 3D World's version of Grandmaster Galaxy. Now, I don't think it's as difficult, but it is definitely a real challenge and definitely worth playing if you unlock it. Super Mario Run. So yeah, this game exists. It kind of counts as a 2D Mario game, so we'll just talk about it anyway. I don't think it really has a level that jumps out as the best one, mostly because you don't get to choose how you play it. Mario runs on his own the whole time, and the entire design boils down to deciding when to jump, so a lot of the courses just are not very memorable. I guess if I had to pick one, like World 4-1, it breaks the format a little bit. It's a tower level, it's almost entirely vertical instead of running left to right, and it has you wall jumping up a narrow shaft past dry bones and timing P-switches instead of just hopping over gaps on a flat track. There might be a better level here, but I've not played this game in so long at this point, but that's just gonna be my pick here. Odyssey has more power moons than every other 3D Mario collectible before it combined, or I don't know, maybe I just made that up. But the point is, there are a lot here, and a huge chunk of those 880 moves are, if we're being honest, ground pound in a field or some repetitive task. But the thing I actually love about this game is that a real portion of them aren't that at all. Some are hidden secrets you stumble into by accident and then spend some time figuring out how you're supposed to actually reach. And one is a concert nearly 40 years in the making. A traditional festival is the third and final story mission in the Metro Kingdom, and it's also the only story moon in the entire game you could freely replay afterward. At least I'm pretty sure it is. And that already tells you Nintendo knew what they had here. You drop into a long 2D sequence set to Jump Up Superstar, and it's packed with Donkey Kong references the whole way through, ending with a pixelated Donkey Kong throwing barrels at you before you finally climb up to Pauline. I'm not picking it for difficulty, obviously, because it is a very easy level. I'm picking it because of how much was clearly put into that one section, more than almost anything else in the entire game. And yes, for the third time in this video, I have to bring up Darker Side, the secret final level for completionists, because like its predecessors, it's a really amazing test of your skills using different captures and mechanics you learned along the way, with actual tough platforming and no checkpoints. I'm probably going to stream myself playing through Darker Side, or at least try to, because this level is brutal but super rewarding. Also, if you're a madman, you could also put on the invisible Mario cap and play this level using nothing but Mario Shadow. And I went through a phase when I was a kid where I kept trying to do this, and I don't honestly remember if I actually beat the level like this. In Super Mario Bros. Wonder, climb to the beat gives you the entire rules. The moment you grab the Wonder Flower, you just jump on the beat. Colorful dotted line blocks appear and disappear in time with the music, while poison steadily rises. And most of the climb involves wall jumping between surfaces that only become solid for a brief moment. Get ahead of the rhythm, and the platform you're aiming for has not appeared yet. Fall behind it, and the poison is already gaining on you before you have even landed. The opening gives you a few beats to find the timing before the real climb starts, and then the blocks lead higher into the sky, the wall jump sequence becomes more demanding, and the available sequences keep shrinking until you try to land on a single block at a time. As you climb, the tempo keeps speeding up, so the rhythm you just settled into is already changing. You can't stop and wait for a safer opening either, because the poison is just moving towards you. So this was actually super stressful and took me a bunch of different times to do. But I don't know, I like rhythm platforming. I thought this was a really cool idea, and it was a really nice challenge too. It's not the only level like this in the game, but definitely my favorite. And finally, for Bowser's Fury, it is a very small game, and I'd say my favorite here would be Mount Magmeow. Now, I might be cheating a little bit counting this instead of just one thing, but it's a whole island as a single volcanic mountain built out of switchboards, fireboards, cat piranha creepers. So I don't know why, but I really like the Fury Bowser part here. There's just a good amount to do here. Like, you're not going to clear the mountain in one pass. There's a Cat Prince bully fight about halfway up. There's a timed switchboard run near the top that doesn't give you much room for error. There's 5 shine shards scattered around the slopes. That was a tongue twister I needed to record like 3 times to get it right. I actually didn't mind these trips back up the mountain. Like, yeah, this isn't one singular shine here, so I'm cheating a little bit with that, but I'd say that this was my favorite part of the game. And that is my favorite Mario level from every mainline game. If you haven't yet, check out the worst level in every mainline Mario game, as well as my other Mario content. Now be sure to subscribe and join my Discord, and I'll see you next time.